you might laugh, but maybe in your lifetime, we tried to do that with French fries. Because France wouldn't allow us to fly over France, and also because of some difficulties they had with the alliance system in Europe. So we were going to get back at France by changing it to freedom fries. Yeah. And the Espionage Act of 1917 and the Sedition Act of 1918 limit speech, what you can say. And IWW leaders, industrial workers of the world that Eugene Debs started, their leaders are arrested, including Eugene Debs. And guys, in your paper that you're going to be working on next week, you're going to get, there's a speech in there from Eugene Debs. He was arrested for that speech. And all he's saying is like, look, why fight the German Kaiser when we have American Kaisers over here? You know, these guys are the captains of industry, basically getting all the young men to go out and fight their war. So to defend against that, a forerunner of the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, is created. We got it? Changes in the workplace. Well, guys, because now the unions are making more money, union membership doubles. And because they still need workers, well, it's okay to have women working in the industry. So you have women joining the workforce. Your work over here makes their work over there possible. Meanwhile, we have the Great Migration and white reactions. Before this war, 90% of African Americans lived in the South, with 75% living in rural areas. But by 1920, more than 500,000 moved north in what's known as the Great Migration. You have the they're going north to the industrial cities of the Midwest, where you have towns like Gary, Indiana, that saw an increase in their black population of 1,284%. Now, why are they moving north? Well, guys, because of the economic opportunities. They were paying $1.50 to $2 an hour, which was about as much money as you could make in the South in a week. Also, in the South, you also had something else pushing them out. Basically, you had a boll weevil epidemic hit. That wiped out a lot of southern farmers. So towns like Jackson, Mississippi, loses almost half of its working class African Americans. Indeed, it's funny because a lot of these guys were rural. And here in Dallas we had them. I forget what these clubs were called, but basically they were city folk telling these country immigrants coming in, look, this is what's expected to you in the city. You gotta bathe every day. You gotta wear a new shirt every day. This is how you turn on or off the light. This is how you pay for electricity. This is, because basically, you go down the country, you wouldn't know that stuff. Not that you're none or less smarter. That wasn't part of your world. And they wanted to try to make their entry and acclimation into the new society that much easier. Why? Well, guys, because anytime you have one subset of population moving into an established population, there's a potential for trouble. And as you come to, it's no surprise that race riots did break out, with the worst being in East St. Louis, Illinois, on July 2nd, 1917, when in reaction to a black gentleman getting a flat tire on the wrong side of town, you had a riot break out, with more than 39 blacks killed, more than 6,000 left homeless. Look at this political cartoon. See a black mother, there's East St. Louis burning in the background. She's got her kids with her. Wilson's holding his, "The world must be made safe for democracy." And she's saying, "Mr. President, why not make America safe for democracy?" Over there. All right, now first off, our Navy was already ready. We've been doing the convoy system, but now it's really organized. You have battleships and other war vessels protecting the convoy fleets going over there. Meanwhile, our Army is caught totally off guard because we have a volunteer Army. This is when the Selective Service Act is passed, that basically says if you're a 21 to 30-year-old male, you need to sign up so that you have the potential to be drafted. And now it's reduced down to 18 years old. So if you're an American man and you're 18, you have to go sign for the Selective Service Act. That's what you have to do. Can't get any federal aid or anything. It's against the law if you don't. So I suggest strongly to every man here, when you turn 18, go to the post office, sign up for it. Then I also strongly urge any man here, if you do get drafted, sue the government. Wait a minute, why? Who gets drafted? Who gets drafted? Starts with men. Who do they let into the Army? Navy, Air Force, Marines, women. So women, this law was passed before they let women in, but now that women are in every branch, how come they don't have to sign up? There is no fest among equals. But anyway, despite the fact that women didn't have to join up, even for this one, more than 13,000 women did join. Okay, now most of these were clerical positions, but you did have women there. We have a more than 2 million man strong army, including the participation of more than 400,000 African Americans, who of course, like I told you, this is before Truman would desegregate the army, so they did have to serve in segregated units. Anybody know what this is a theme song to? It's an escape movie. Huh? You haven't seen, nobody here's seen Escape from New York, the 1970s one or whatever. Not the remake that they made up. With Kurt Russell, Snake Plissken. So the American Expeditionary Force gets there in June of 1917. Everyone is under the command of General John Pershing. And the Central Powers are desperately close to victory. They no longer have to fight against the Russians because you had the Bolshevik Revolution or the Communist Revolution in Russia that threw out the old Tsar. They signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk that gave Germans Finland, The Baltic Holdings, parts of Poland and the Ukraine, making up a third of its population, half of its industries, its fertile agricultural land, and a quarter of its foreign territory. By May, they are within 50 miles of Paris. Incredibly close to victory.